Hey guys, this is G2 with the Vibe Podcast coming at you again. How you doing? Hope you guys are doing well out there. Ready for whatever. It's another great day. It's like 70 something degrees outside here in Wichita, which is crazy. We don't normally get weather like this. So it's good to have some weather like this out here where we can enjoy it. Kind of feels like spring a little bit, so we'll take that. All right, so today's topic is going to be 5 reasons relationships fail. So I'm going to go through these 5 reasons. In each reason, I'll kind of break down a little bit and kind of give you guys some insight on why those things break down. There's one specific reason we'll kind of dive into the sexes as far as like men's ideals or feelings on it and women's, and kind of go in and kind of, we'll kind of take from there. So you guys ready to ride with me? So number one of the first reasons that most people obviously know is lack of sex or intimacy in a relationship. So once the relationship gets to a point where you're not intimate with each other, you're not touching each other, no physical contact is being made, that's kind of an outline that kind of tells you that you're probably coming to the end, right? It tells you that you're coming down to the end of the relationship. And so that's when partners kind of start to say, okay, this is probably it. Because once the physical intimacy is gone out of the relationship, it's hard to get it back. And a lot of times there's a whole lot of psychological things that go into that for men. If they're not feeling validated, they're not feeling like they're being heard. For women, if they feel like you're not attending to their emotions, or you're not making the changes that they desire in you, then typically these things happen. So it happens over a long period of time. I know for men, we are very touchy-feely. We like to be touched. And so if a man tells you don't touch him, that didn't just come up from the current argument. That's something that's built up over time typically. And women can be the same too. They recognize that, hey, their man's not touching them like they used to. Even intimate touch, it could be sexual touch too. Grab butts, whatever you guys do in your relationships. And so if they notice the change in your physical contact with them, they read into that. Women will read into that. Men will also read into that when it comes from the ladies' side too. And so you have to understand that when you have a lack of intimacy, a lack of sex in a relationship, this is typically like one of the last dominoes to fall. So everything else kind of happens, and then this is like the last piece that happens after everything else has already happened, right? And so it's important that you recognize the other pieces that lead up to this piece. Number 2, an imbalance in a relationship. So you have a partner that feels inferior to the other partner. And this could manifest itself in ways where you feel like you want to do something, but your partner wants to do this, and you typically go along with whatever your partner wants to do. Do that long enough, it's like a teeter-totter effect, and it creates an imbalance. So essentially, like we talked in the prior podcast about negotiation and communication, right? When you negotiate and communicate to compromise requires both sides to budge, right? If one side's budging more than the other, that's when you create an imbalance in a relationship. And typically, when you have an imbalance in a relationship, most of the time it's going to teeter towards women. It's easier to subscribe to the culture of happy wife, happy life, and I think that's what that culture creates, an imbalance. And so, kind of puts them in between a rock and a hard place, because you want to make your woman happy, you want to make your wife happy, you want to make sure she's satisfied, but you have to understand that you have needs as well as a man, and so you have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and that your needs are getting taken care of as well. Because what will happen is you may not know it, but you start to build resentment for your partner whenever you go that route, right? And so you have to be extremely careful when it comes to imbalance, when it comes to kind of doing all the things that one partner wants to do and kind of leaving yourself out. You have to kind of think about it like that. So third thing that we got to know is cheating in the relationship. And so obviously that's the huge no-no. That's the big hoopla. And so a mistake here obviously is hard to come back from, right? So you look at it and you say, so we'll look at it and say, why do men cheat? Typically men cheat because there's a lack of validation for his feelings in a relationship. Lack of sex or intimacy, so one of the ones that we talked about from the top, or their significant other stops taking care of themselves. those are the three key reasons that I've found in talking to men for their infidelity is those three things. You know, they need intimacy. Most men want to be heard. They want their feelings to be validated. Women always will put their feelings first, and typically what happens is they'll get the validation because they force the validation. Men, we don't force our feelings on anybody, so we're not going to get validation, and unless we push, and we don't like to push because we're not very emotionally driven. We're a little bit more logical and rational thinkers, and so when it comes to emotions, men seem to, the society wants us to be emotional, but men are not as emotional as females, and I think that we all know that. I think society knows that, and so I think that some of the changes in society have kind of pushed men to become more emotional, become more in tune with their emotions, which is okay. It's okay for men to be in tune with their emotions. I know there's a lot of men out there that say you can't be emotional, yada yada yada, but that's when you start to develop depression and mental health problems. When you're not in touch with your emotions, you don't spill things out to get them out of you, to allow your body to release some of that stress. Women, typically, women are along the same lines as men with the emotional stuff. Typically, they will cheat emotionally before they'll get physical, because there's an emotional attachment. Women, if they're not emotionally connected to you, it's kind of hard for them to be sexually connected to you. And so when that connection is lost in the relationship, typically that's when women tend to go out and find it because they're looking for something, so they'll find that and fill that void. So lack of emotional attachment's one. They also are it's notorious for a conglomerate of females to look for something better. So they'll find something better, leave this guy, jump to the next guy. It's called monkey branching. And so they leave this guy and move on to the next guy because this guy seems to be better, seems to give them something more of what they're looking for than this other guy does. And that happens a lot. That damages a lot of men because then a lot of men get a sour taste in their mouth for females because that has happened to them so many times. And so now that we kind of looked at those things, those are kind of some of the key elements of the reason why both sides cheat. But cheating in a relationship is one of the big things that obviously causes rift, and it's hard to come back from. So that was the third thing. Fourth thing is lack of understanding. I talk about understanding a lot on my podcast. I know it's not really pushed by a lot of other people that have podcasts about relationship. But when I think about it, it's important for you to understand the person that you're with. I know one thing Shaq said that I love. You must take people as you found them, not as you want them to be. So you must take that person for who they are from day one. People are like, well, you change for your loved ones and you change for this. They don't understand how hard it is. Because even them saying that, those people that yell that out to the rooftops, well, you got to change for, they're the main ones that won't change anything for their partner. So they're yelling out the rooftops, oh, you got to change, you should be able to change this and this and this. But they're the ones that rarely make any kind of change, period, for their partners. And so that's the reason why when people yell that out, I'm just looking at them like, yeah, you probably don't change for your partner. And single people will say that. You need to change for me, or you need to change for your partner, yada, yada, yada. You got a lot of single people that say that. People in relationships, long relationships have been together for a long time, they understand how hard it is to change a person or for them to change themselves. So, hey, no, we're not going to speak like that. In a relationship, you're not going to be like, man, you just need to change. You're not going to talk like that because you understand how hard it is to change. And so instead of always having to change one side or the other, have better understanding, have a better basis of understanding for the person that you're in a relationship with. And so you spend time trying to understand who they are, what they are, and why they do what they do. I use an example about cooking. If your partner likes to have they have a certain way that they cook. They come in the kitchen and cook, and then they clean after they use the dish, and they kind of keep everything tidy. You come in and you mess up the rotation. They get mad at you. They're mad at you because you're messing up what they do. So they're in their comfort zone, their element, and you didn't understand that. And so you came in and thought, okay, I'm going to do this, jumble it up a little bit. Whereas if you understood why they did what they did, you're more likely to follow in their footsteps because you had understanding. I think people want to understand at the end of the day, people want to understand. If you have the ability to understand, and if you do understand your partner, it's easier to do the things that they want you to do or to change things that you're doing and to make it a little bit more comfortable and better for your partner because you understand why they're doing it. Like, I understand that there's going to be times when you don't need the full understanding. There's going to be go moments, is what I call them, where you have to just kind of get it done and then you can talk about it later. But for most instances in a relationship, you're going to have the opportunity to be able to make the changes that are necessary in these situations for your partner when you understand what's going on. So you take time to understand them so that way you can make the subtle changes, the little tweaks that you need to make in order to make things more comfortable for your partner. So understanding is less about you, more about them. And you'll catch that drift as I move into the fifth thing. And I think this is the most important thing, or one of the most important things on the topic: putting yourself first, putting other people or things over your partner. So when you put other people or things over your partner, everybody has an order of operations. They have an order in their mind of, okay, this is important, this is important, this is important, this is important, right? And so they operate on, say your tank of gas gets you 50 miles. I know that's crazy. Most tanks of gas get you way more than 50 miles. But let's just say that. And say on your list of things that are important, you have school, number 1, work, number 2, kids, number 3, significant other, number 4, right? So now you're driving. So now you got to take care of school, get that done. Okay, you're down to 75% of your gas left. Now you got work, so you got to get work pounded out. So you put that work in there, man, I got to get that done. So now you're down to 40%, take a little bit more out of you. And then you got the kids, and you're like, man, we got to get the kids taken care of. We got to make sure that they're good to go. Now you're down to 10%. So then you get down to the fourth, which is your significant other, and they get the last 10% of energy or gas that you have left in your tank. That is a problem, and that's a huge problem in relationships today. That's one thing that was understood in the olden days with older people, with the older generation. They understood this model that when you put all these things up there, it makes it easier to put more stuff up there. So when you put things above your spouse or your significant other, it makes it easier to put more stuff up there. So you didn't pile on 3 things. Now it's like, well, something else comes up, something else important comes up. Oh man, I got a garden. I got to do this. Okay, then that goes up there too. So we're gonna put gardening at number 4, move him down to number 5, and you have more reasons to justify moving that person down. So as you put stuff on top of that list and you move stuff around, the easiest person to move down the list is your significant other. I don't know why people do that. I'm not a therapist. I wish I was, and I can have an understanding of why people do that. But that is something that definitely plays into how high our divorce rate is, how you have multiple. I'm going to go into that one in a second. Skip that part. So how you have people out here that get in multiple marriages and they keep marrying people. They want marriage, but they don't understand that there's an order of operations on how you should operate your life, right? How you should operate your relationships too. Some people will put their friends over their spouse, which is crazy to me, but some people do it. And that's a societal change. That's succumbing to how society is. And so in marriage, even putting your kids above your spouse can cause you some issues. Here's why. You got 18 years of home life with the kids, right? So you get married, you're married to your spouse, you have kids. So you spend the latter part of 2 decades putting your kids over your spouse. And kids, and then, like I said, when you put one thing over your spouse, other things are become easier to put on top of them. So now you're just piling stuff in there. So now your spouse might be the 10th on your list of important stuff. And in 20 years of being the 10th, that adds up. Now your kids have moved away, they're away from home, and you and your spouse have nothing. It's like you're starting over completely. You don't have nothing because you put your spouse at a lower position for so many years that you haven't nurtured the relationship. It takes a lot to nurture the relationship, and you have to remember that your spouse, most of the time, not in common society nowadays, it ain't the same as it used to be. People will have kids with multiple people, and that's a whole nother podcast for a whole nother day of ridiculousness. But for people that have all their kids with one person, and you stay with that one person, you stay married, you stay in a relationship with that one person, you'll understand. Like, you'll go through those years and you'll understand that, man, it sucks. It's a grind. It's hard. You literally go through your day. So you wake up, you go to work, get the kids ready, get the kids to school, go to work, come home, make dinner, get the kids ready for bed, and then you ain't got nothing left. You got like 2% left in the tank. And then that's what your spouse gets. Your spouse gets 2%. And you do that over and over for 365 days a year for multiple decades, you kind of lose the relationship. And so most people subscribe to that mindset. They're like, man, my kids got to come first. Oh, I got to put this first. And they're all, oh, I got to put this first and this over this. You want to know why people do that? And the main people that I see, that do that, that speak like that, are not in a relationship and have multiple partners with multiple kids. So you got multiple kids, multiple partners. So you got a chalkboard in the back trying to keep track of birthdays. You got baby mama 2, baby mama 3, or whatever it may be, with however many kids. Those are the type of people that speak like that. And so that doesn't make any sense. If your kids came first, you wouldn't have multiple partners. You wouldn't have a whole bunch of stepkids in your kid's life if they actually came first. So when people say they put their kids first or they put this first, twist it, turn it, put the key in, the door unlocks. Guess what comes out the door? They're actually putting themselves first. And so when you have that mindset and you subscribe to that mindset and you do those things, those are the type of people that aren't in relationships. Those are the type of people that aren't in relationships. Most of them aren't in a relationship. People that are married for a long time, they understand the fundamental piece, right? If you have a car and pieces are out of order, it won't work. Same thing goes for life and relationships. If you have a relationship and things are out of order, it's not going to work. A relationship was created a certain way. Marriage was created a certain way. There's a reason why things happen in marriage. There's a reason why you say certain things when you're at the altar with your partner. There's a reason why you read some verses out of the Bible that explain to you what the expectation of marriage is. There's a reason why you do these things, right? So we don't do these things just to do it, just because we feel like it. This is the foundation, and these are the fundamentals of what marriage actually is. And it's even biblical. There's Christians that subscribe to this mindset of putting other things over their significant other. There's Christians that do it. And it say that in the Bible. It literally tells you the family structure in the Bible, and Christians still can't get it right. Literally, God painted a picture. He got a depth chart. Like, you know, football teams, they have a depth chart. There's a depth chart in the back here. So you got your QB, your running back, your wide receiver, your lineman. That's the depth chart. God gave us a depth chart for the family structure, and Christians that read the Bible can't even get it right. If we can't get it right as Christians, how do we expect people that are in the outside world to get it right? We're supposed to be the examples, right, of what a family unit looks like, and we can't even get it right. That's the crazy part. He literally just broke it down piece by piece to us what it's supposed to look like, what he wants his family unit to look like. He created us, right? Our belief is that he created us. So why don't we do it the way the Creator actually created it to be? God, husband, wife, kids. The only thing that should be over your partner is the Lord himself. And Christians can't get it right. He literally broke it down. I mean, and people say, oh, interpretation. You can't interpret a depth chart differently. Like, when you go to the Kansas City Chiefs, right? You go in their locker room, Andy Reid has a depth chart up. Patrick Mahomes, quarterback. Isaiah Pacheco, running back. What if you switch them up? Well, no, Isaiah Pacheco, I'm interpreting differently. So Isaiah Pacheco is going to be the quarterback, and we're going to make Patrick Mahomes a running back. Absolutely not. Like, you don't interpret a depth chart wrong. You can't. You can only change it in your mind to make it fit whatever you want it to fit. And I'm getting long-winded on this one because this is important. Putting other people above your partner is important and is a problem in our society today. And I implore people to go back to the fundamentals of relationships. The Creator created it, and he gave us an established order and depth chart on how he wanted things to be, and we can't even follow what he told us. You can go to church every single Sunday for your whole entire life, claim that you love the Lord, but your depth chart at the house don't fit what the Lord told you. You're not even being obedient to the Lord. But yeah, you're going to church every day. So just because you go to church, just because you read the Bible, doesn't mean that you're doing what you need to be doing. Like, you have to actually be doing what the Bible tells you to do. And don't make excuses for this or that, but actually get it done. If we have our relationships based on what the Bible told us to do, we wouldn't have so many problems. a lot of our problems stem because we've gone away from the depth chart. The depth chart has the lineman is the quarterback. I think his name is Creed Humphrey for the Chiefs, the center. He's the quarterback on some people's depth chart. That's who the quarterback is. On some people's depth chart, the offensive tackle is the head coach. Some people's organizational chart, the offensive tackle is the head coach. That's how some people run their homes. Crazy to me that you run your home like that. If you run your home like that, you're not going to have a home too much longer. You're going to have problems. And so putting other people over themselves. Examples. Let me give you some examples of ways that people put other things or people over their significant other. Spouse. We're going to stick to marriage. Spouse. Work. Some people put work over their spouse. Item number 2. Friends. Some people will put friends over their spouse. 3. Bosses. Bosses or supervisors or people are in supervisory roles. They'll put them over. So now the depth chart. So the depth chart was made. Wish I had a chalkboard back here. I'd write it up. Maybe I'll get one so I can write stuff on the chalkboard back here. So God, right? Husband, wife, kids, right? Family unit. Those are the 4 things that he put in there. And so now what happens is people are plugging stuff in. Husband comes down here. Kids come up here. We're going to put work in here too. And we're going to put friends in here. So we're just going to keep adding stuff in here. Well, some people, hold on, time out. Some people, pastor goes up there too. They put their pastor up there. Pastors need to make sure that they recognize that in their church. If you are talking to people or have a marriage counsel with people and they're putting you above their significant other or their husband, because most pastors are men, or their husband, women are putting them over their husband, you need to correct that behavior because that's not how it was created. I mean, literally, I broke it down to you guys a couple of times. I'll break it down to you one more time because you might not have got it the 15th time I broke it down to you. God, husband, wife, kids. That order. That's the order. The order was established. The depth chart was done. When the coach put the depth chart in, which is the Lord himself, he put the depth chart in. He knew who the quarterback was. He knew who the running back was. He knew that's the ultimate dynasty. Think about Patriots. Think about how their organization was so tight and it was so successful for so long because everybody had their established order. And God is not a God of chaos. He's a God of order. So when he establishes order, we have to follow the order that he gives. What else do people put up there? Themselves. Some people put themselves over their spouse. What else? I'm trying to think. Finances. People put finances above their spouse. Good one. In-laws. People will put their in-laws over their spouse. So things that you put over your spouse, these cause problems in relationships. The only person that goes over your spouse is the Lord himself. And he put himself there. He established this order. And it's crazy to me that we can't follow a depth chart. Because we want to do things our way. We think we know better than the one that created it. He created a relationship. He created marriage. He created women because he knew men was going to be idiots without women. And I agree, we are idiots without them. And so he created women because we need a partner. And we needed somebody else to assist us. Like we will go out and create wealth. But we need somebody to help us maintain, right? That's what women are good at. They're good at maintaining things. We go get it, bring it back, they maintain it. That's what we do. Men build value. Women are born with value. But they help you maintain your value. They bring their value to you. Now you become together. Now you're one. And now they're maintaining as you're continuing to build. And that's how you keep going up the steps. If your marriage is out of whack and there's other pieces in this depth chart that aren't completely working the way it's supposed to work, you're not going to succeed. You're not going to get where you're trying to go. You'll have financial troubles, financial struggles. It'll be hard to afford stuff. You won't be able to keep a budget. You'll have marital troubles. You'll have issues with your spouse. You'll have communication issues. Because understand this, that when you understand the order, you understand how to communicate up, you understand how to communicate down too. So you understand where people's role is, you understand how to communicate to them based on their role. So if we're not doing it the way that it was ordained to be done, the way the order was set, the depth chart was done by the Lord himself, then we are going to have problems. And I think that that's what's happening. People have gone away from what the Creator created. He created this thing called a marriage. And he said, this is how I want it done. Chalkboard back here. I mean, let me write it down on a piece of paper so people might better understand it if I write it down and put it in front of the camera. So, he created a depth chart. We're going to call it the marriage depth chart. Hopefully my handwriting is cool. Kids. And then at the bottom, I'll just put everything else. That's what I'll put at the bottom. Everything else. Our marriage depth chart, guys. God, husband, wife, kids, all the other crap that's outside of the family. This is the family unit right here. These 4 things create the family unit. And so anything outside of these 4 things is the other stuff. But this is the playbook. This is the play. They are running. This is the offense that they're running. This is the offense they're running. You can call it 11. You can call it whatever you want to. You can call it a shotgun bunch. Whatever you want to call it. This is what he's running. So you must ask yourself, why are we not running his offense? What has happened to us that's caused us to stray away from the offense that he created? The depth chart that he put out here. Why must we be different than what we've been asked to be? That'll be for another podcast coming up soon. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about why humans and why society is strayed away from that depth chart. And it starts with society is strayed away from God himself. I'm going to give you that piece, but we're going to get out of here on that note. So, guys, if you like our stuff, please like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell. Make sure you get a notification whenever we're going to start going live soon. So hit that bell. Make sure that you get those notifications for our live stream. And remember, if it was created to be a certain way, like when you look at the creators of Tesla, am I going to go out there and create a Tesla differently than how they did? No, because if you do, it's not a Tesla, and we have to understand that, guys. So as you go on, remember those 5 keys. 1, putting yourself first. Putting yourself or other things over your spouse. 2, lack of sex or intimacy in a relationship. 3, imbalance in your relationship. 4, cheating in your relationship. 5, lack of understanding. If we can get these 5 things in place, I guarantee you we can have success. That's all I got for you guys today. Again, this is GT.